Hello students, welcome back to the lecture. I hope you all remember that in last lecture we have discussed the basic introduction of our subject. Based on that lecture only, today firstly we will start our first unit, that is Introduction to Supply Chain Management, and later we will be discussing the difference between supply chain management and logistics management. Firstly, let's revise the definition of SCM. According to the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, supply chain management encompasses the planning and management of all activities involved in sourcing and procurement, conversion, and all logistics management activities. Importantly, it also includes coordination and collaboration with channel partners, which can be suppliers, intermediaries, third-party service providers, and customers. In essence, supply chain management integrates supply and demand management within and across companies. To see the concept of supply chain for product, we have this flowchart diagram. In this flowchart, we can see the supply chain for product. Here we have different suppliers, those who supplies raw material to the manufacturer for manufacturing the product. That raw material should be stored somewhere and hence then require the storage. Then the finished product should be stored in warehouse. That finished product should be distributed to different retailers or the wholesalers, and the retailer will make the product available for the customers. This blue arrow is indicating a material flow, and red arrow indicates the information flow, which is very essential for the supply chain. In next flow chart, you can see the supply chain for services. Here also the supply chain, this supply chain includes supplier, storage, services, and customer. Supplier, in short, supplier provides services to the customer. Fine. So students, the important part of supply chain management is also having some elements. So let's have a look on important elements of supply chain management. There are 4 elements of supply chain. First one is integration. As with any project, planning is essential for long-term success. Part of good planning is setting up integration, which means that everyone is involved in the manufacturing process, communicates the separate divisions, integrated teamwork together to make sure the product gets to distribution phase. This improved communication reduces errors that cost time and money. Since everyone is working together, leaders can also monitor the entire operation and easily identify areas along the supply chain that can be improved. Hence, integration includes coordination, integration activities, global integration problems, performance measurement, etc. Our next element is the operations. As important as strategy is to keeping a strong supply chain, day-to-day operations are the backbone of the work. Manufacturers do managers monitor the work being performed and make sure everything remains on track. Many of today's manufacturers operate using lean manufacturing strategies, which mean that processes are constantly evaluated to identify where it's monitoring equipment to make sure you are getting the most out of it, or cutting back work hours when production slows down. The operational team can bring major improvements to the supply chain. So, operation includes demand management, MRP, ERP, just in time, total quality management, etc. So, this was the second element of supply chain management. Let's have a look on the third element, that is purchasing. Purchasing, you can't make something from nothing. This is the rule. The purchasing area of supply chain management makes sure a company has everything it needs to manufacture products, including materials, supplies, tools, and equipment. This means often staying ahead of process so that you have everything you need on hand well before you actually need it. Without the right purchasing personnel, you could find that you end up running out of the material you need, delaying production, or that you overbuy and strain the company's budget. So this includes supplier alliances, supplier management, strategic sourcing, etc. Last element of the supply chain management is distribution. The supply chain ends when the product lands on store shelves, where customer can buy them or their front door if they purchase them online. But getting product there means having a well planned shipping process. Most companies today we use logistics software to manage their shipments, whether they handle it on their own or source shipping to a third party provider. When handled correctly, products are moved expeditiously from the warehouse to the customer. So, distribution includes transportation management, customer relationship management, network design, service response logistics, and so on. So, I hope you have understand the 4 elements of our supply chain management. Now, let's understand the feature of supply chain management. So, there are total 7 features of supply chain management. The first one is integrated behavior. As we have discussed, the integration is one of the element of supply chain management. So, it shows integrated behavior of supply chain management because it incorporates integration of stakeholders from suppliers to customer. Did you understand? Now, our second feature is mutually sharing information. So, here even we have discussed supply chain management includes information flow. Correct? So, it requires mutually sharing information among channel members, especially for planning and monitoring processes. Our third feature is mutually sharing channel risk and rewards. When we are involved in any activity of business, it has two sides. One is risk and second is rewards. So for effective supply chain management, mutually sharing channel risk and rewards that yields a competitive advantage is required. Next is cooperation. So, cooperation, it is also very important because according to Cooper and Elram, cooperation is not limited to the needs of the current transaction and happens at several management level involving cross-functional coordination across the channel members. Now, for cross-functional channel member, we can take example of back office, third-party service providers like Paytm, bank, shipments, etc. Fifth feature is focus on serving customer. As per our previous discussion, purpose of SCM is customer satisfaction, correct? So that we need to have focus on serving customers. For the success of supply chain, it is very important that all the members of the chain should have the same goal and the same focus of servicing customers. Next feature is the integration of processes. To implement supply chain management needs the integration of processes from sourcing to manufacturing and to distribute across the supply chain. Lastly, partners to build and maintain long-term relationships. As we all are social animals and we need each other, in the same way, businesses also needs partners to build and maintain long-term relationships with each other for achieving defined objectives, and hence it's also one of the important feature of supply chain management. It helps to integrate policy if there are compatible culture and management techniques among the chain members. So I hope you have understood the features of SCM. Now let's have a look on the next topic, that is objectives of SCM. So, the first objective is system orientation. SCM aims proper organized system to succeed. Our third objective is to minimizing work in progress. Supply chain minimizes total work in progress and complete activity as early as possible. The fourth objective is improving total quality management is the main part of operations in SCM. So efficient supply chain helps in improving the quality of operations of the organization. Our next objective of SCM is minimizing the time. SCM aims to reduce the time required for converting orders into cash. So there is minimum time lag and increase the productivity of the organization. Next objective is improving visibility of demand. It improves the visibility of demand by each one of the partners, like demand of supplier, demand of manufacturer, demand of retailer, or the demand of customer. It gives clear idea about the demands of every partner. Next objective is to reduce transportation cost. If the supply chain is efficient, then the transportation cost reduces and thus it benefits the company as efficiency increases and reduces the carrying cost of the company. Next objective is to reduce warehousing cost. As SCM includes storage of inventory in warehouse, supply chain management aims to reduce the cost of that warehousing by less holding up of inventory. And lastly, to improving value. The main objective of every supply chain is to maximize the overall generated value. Now, what do we mean by supply chain value? So, the supply chain value is the difference between what the final product is worth to the customer and the effort the supply chain expends in filling the customer's request. In other words, we can say if company should able to fulfill the expectations of customers means the company have good supply chain value. Company should provide what customer is demanding. This is also the one of the objective of supply chain management. So students, let's learn the difference between supply chain management and logistics management. As now we have covered the features and objectives of supply chain management. Now we will see the difference between supply chain management and logistics management. As we know the meaning of both the terms, SCM is a way to link major business processes within and across companies into a high performance business model that derives competitive advantage, while logistics refers to the movement, storage and flow of goods, services and information inside and outside the organization. Second point is the main focus of supply chain is a competitive advantage, while the main focus of logistics is meeting customers' requirements. Next, supply chain management is relatively new term, while logistics is a term that has been around for a long time, emerging from its military roots. Lastly, the logistics is an activity within the supply chain. So, on the basis of these key differences, we can say that the terms should not be used interchangeably. They do supplement each other. So, one process cannot exist without the other. In this way, today we have covered many important topics of first unit, and remaining topics we will be discussing in the next lecture.